not scotch, whiskey. So I was pouring this, and my wife came out and she was started laughing. She's like, "Are you hurting?" And I'm like, "Yeah, kind of. You know, I always hurt. I'm disabled." And she just like I never drank before 5 o'clock, and then when I do, I have a couple drinks like this, about this size right here.
Mhm.
She just thought it was hilarious. I was drinking whiskey already. I'm like, "It's a rough day, baby." But yeah. Hey, welcome to the show, Todd. What you up to, man?
Recuperating right now. That's about it.
Recuperating from cold?
No, I just throwing the chat up there.
Yeah.
Earlier last week, I started just getting some pain in my back and in the right side.
Yeah.
I had started hitting the gym hard again, so I thought maybe I just pulled a muscle. And then it just kind of over 2 or 3 days got progressively worse. I was starting to have trouble breathing, and then one morning I got up and started coughing and coughed up a bunch of red stuff. So I
Jeez.
trucked myself off to the outpatients. Spent 6 hours there with testing, and they did X-rays and dye test, MRIs, and whatnot, and decided I had a blood clot in my right lung. So,
That comes from smoking dope with fentanyl in it. You need to stop that.
no, we send all our fentanyl to you guys. Didn't you know that?
Yeah. Hey, speaking of that, I was wondering your opinion on being the 51st American state.
Um, geez, how to answer that? Are there any Canadians in the chat?
There's probably not. Probably not anybody. Luke's out there. Hey, Luke.
My opinion on that is I love Canada. Been here for almost 55 years, born and raised. Love the country. Don't love my government right now. Haven't for quite a while. And we, overall, I think we're in a really bad spot. The richest province in Canada is poorer than the poorest state in the U.S. So there are certainly some things about the U.S. I would love to have here. A lot of your rights and privileges, your constitution, your economy. We were talking there yesterday, and I was showing you the price of some knives up here.
Yeah, it's
Prices
crazy.
down there. I mean,
I was really surprised by that. Why don't you mention that? Talk about that. About we were talking about what I could get knives and send them to you for, and what you would pay for them. What I can't remember the knife we were talking about.
I think it was an SE6, I think.
An SE, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could pick those up for around a little over $100. Here is an SE5
Hmm.
right there, and I'm gonna send that to you. I don't know whether you could see it really good yesterday when I showed you, but
No, that's a
it's
solid.
supposed to be green micarta, but that's kind of common for green micarta. Is it turns kind of brown,
Hmm.
and that's what I was telling you about. So it's kind of blocky here, right? And a lot of guys will round this over, and
Yeah.
it is rounded. I think you could see that right there. It
Mhm.
is rounded, but
Yep.
it's not enough, right? So when you put it in your hand, it does feel kind of blocky, but for my hands, it's comfortable.
Hmm.
You get some jimp in there, and of course, I think it's 1095 is what this is. A lot of SCs are. Look at that. Look at that blade profile, though.
That's deep.
So, like the SC6 would be 1 inch longer, right about there, and they're thinner. So the blade would be right along here,
Mhm.
right? But this is a good knife. You might decide that you don't even need an SC6 when I send you this, but
That's cool. Well, it's like
anyhow, how much would one of those cost up there?
I think I looked it up on Blades Canada, which is out of BC last night, and if I remember right, it was 279 suggested retail.
That's crazy.
And they had
That's
yeah, it was on
that's
sale for like 240 or something like that.
Yeah, it's like 110% more, and you're right across the border. There should be absolutely no reason for that. I mean, if I mail you something, it doesn't cost a lot, and if you mail me something, it doesn't cost a lot.
Yep.
So it's not the mail. There's a tariff or something there. That's kind of what Trump was talking about, and it sounds crazy. He's so outrageous, but a lot of times he makes sense. What he's saying when he says we should make it a 51st state is we should have a lot closer relationship to y'all than we have, right? And a lot of times it's I mean, the bottom line is Canada is not very open to American products or American institutions. Our banking institutions can't operate in Canada.
Yeah, that's a strange one because we've had Chinese banks operating here, from what I understand.
Yeah, isn't that funny, right? And that's really the issue with America. When he's talking about America first, what he's talking about is common sense. And I've known this for years. Like I learned, I don't know, 15 years ago, like we don't send milk to France, but they have unlimited markets in the United States. We take anything from France.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
What we get into, like just with the issue with the knife, the first thing we have is the currency exchange.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're at pretty much an all-time low right now. I think 62 cents on the dollar, somewhere around there.
I didn't know that.
And the recent tariff thing has really, we were at about 67, 68. And then when the tariff announcements came out, we dropped down to about 62, I think.
Wow.
That's just off the top of my head. So right off the bat, that $100 knife is going to cost me an extra maybe $40 by the time I pay the exchange. Then the shipping isn't typically horrible. It might be double. Like if I ordered $100 worth of knives at a Chicago Knife Works, when they would still send up here, I might pay $40 for the shipping. And that's based on weight. Then I have to pay all the Canadian taxes on top of that as if I had bought it in Canada. So add another 18% on top of that. And then I have to pay duty when it hits the border. So when that package hits the border, I get a message from whatever courier is dealing with it saying I need to send the courier $30 to cover the duty so they can pick up the package and bring it to me.
So you're paying like a duty tax too.
Yeah. So if I order $100 worth of knives from Chicago Knife Works, it's probably going to cost me a little over $200 in the end. How I get it in my hands.
So I've imported from all over the world. Before I talk about this, I want to say hi to Stan. Hey, Stan. And David, how you doing?
Gook. I tried entering the chat and it wouldn't work for me, so I can't type into the chat right now.
You should be able to.
Well, when I click here, I click join chat. It says connect to YouTube. Then it takes me to StreamYard. It asks me to log in through Google.
Radar's out there too.
Yeah, and then
maybe that's in my settings. Let me look at that real quick. Settings, camera, video, recording hotkeys, guests. Guests can view comments. Guests can stream this in their own destinations. Play sound. Must authenticate. I don't see where. I don't see why you can't say hi to guests. I don't see that in here.
I go through all the steps, and when it gets to the final join chat, StreamYard tells me there's an issue with YouTube, and it won't let me. But I mean, it's not a big deal. We're talking away here. Just I wanted to.
When you see the comments, and I'm going to do that too, by the way. I don't mean to be rude, Todd. I'm just like when I see people, I want to say hi to them, see what's up with them. Kathleen just dropped in. But I didn't know that about Canada and the duties. Like I was saying, when I get knives, I get them from all over the world. Mm-hmm. And I've even gotten knives from Russia. I have never had to pay a duty on any knife coming into the United States.
I did. I ordered one from a BPS knife from Ukraine, and I had to pay duty on that. It's just
So that's Canada.
it's a manipulation to get you to try and buy stuff from within the country as opposed to outside of the country. But I mean, we American imports are a huge part of our economy.
Yeah, they should remember that.
Yeah, and
your politicians
and our internal political issues, like most of our oil and whatnot is in Alberta.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Now, I have oil hot water in my house. I can't buy oil from Alberta because the government, they were supposed to run a pipeline from Alberta to BC to the ports and from Alberta to Nova Scotia, Maritimes. Quebec didn't want the pipeline running through Quebec, and the Liberal government doesn't want anything unhealthy to the environment. So for me to get oil from Alberta, Alberta sends it to the U.S., sells it to the U.S., pipes it down to you guys, you refine it, and then you pipe it up to the Maritimes.
Right.
So let's say it's $1 a gallon that the U.S. buys it from Alberta from, and then sells it back to us in the Maritimes at $3 a gallon, so triple the price. So for me right now, to fill a 3/4 size oil tank is about $600.
Yeah, I mean your GNP is 578 billion. So this is an area. The thing about free trade is it's going to hurt somebody, right? It's competitive. It's competitive, and there are downsides to letting Americans participate in your economy, but the upside is an American industrialist would look at that situation and say, I can put that pipeline in for you. Just give me a percentage of what's going through it. And so, Canada's view is we want to put the pipeline in and pay for it, but they don't have the money. 518 billion is nothing. When you're talking about a pipeline running from Alberta, to you're talking billions of dollars to put the pipeline through.
The problem is they put so much regulation in the way.
Yeah. Well, they do that on purpose, right? It's to exclude people from doing things.
There was a quote, I think, and it actually came from a conservative government that said, if you wanted to build a new plant to make widgets, right now it takes 16 years to get through all the red tape. Yeah. Or you can actually break soil. Yeah,
it's like California. In California, I was listening. There's a service in America called Waste Management, and it's one of the largest garbage type. They do other things than garbage, but they're one of the largest garbage service providers in America. And they're based in California. They wanted to build a larger facility in California. And the CEO was saying, after 10 years of complying with everything, but in 10 years, they had not been approved to build the plant. They went to Nevada and built the plant in Nevada. Within a year and a half, the plant was up and running. Yeah. So not only approval, but the approval and building the entire plant only took a year and a half. And he said that's the problem with California. They're so anti-business that you can't do business there. Ultimately, that hurts you. That's hurting the state of California.
You can look at everything you hear about California as far as the politics and policy.
Yeah,
that's pretty much Canada.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, it's they do it on purpose. Yep. The regulation is there to try to discourage and make it difficult to do things without outright outlawing it. It's a backdoor authoritarian type of thing. But, what else are you doing, man? You carrying anything today?
I got a the ones I was carrying today, I did a short on today. I got my little Rough Rider cinnamon and bone stag canoe with the Damascus blades.
I just got who sent that to me? Oh my gosh. Okay, I can't remember, but a subscriber sent me a cinnamon bone. What was that thing? Bow trapper. Yeah, just like that. You told me about it, and I'm gonna take that black. I'm gonna re-dye that black so that it doesn't come off. Yep, they're excellent. I love that bow trapper.
Well, just that.
Mine's kind of like that. So guess what? This is what I've been carrying. It's basically a bow trapper,
Yeah.
right?
That's the chili pepper.
Yeah, man, what a sweet knife. Watch this. This is just holding it, right? Watch this. It just falls, you know. It's so smooth, it's unbelievable. And it's one of the few knives like you know, I'm older, so I don't have the best dexterity, but I can pop out that front. It has multiple deployments. It's got the front clip on it. See right there, and man, I just pop that thing out there. So yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I remember when those came out. Was spring last year, I think, when they first came out.
Was it? I think it was older than that, but yeah, you know, it's Swag. Swags is the I don't know whether you could see it. Swags is the designer on that. You know who she is?
Swags. I remember watching a video of the knife.
Rosecraft.
She's with Rosecraft now?
Okay. She produces for Rosecraft. She worked at Smoky Mountain Knife Works.
Probably when Andy was there, he probably scooped her.
Yeah, he brought her over.
Yeah. That brings out, just looking at that knife, brings out an interesting thing when you talk about government regulation just to discourage people.
Mm-hmm.
Our knife laws are nuts up here.
Oh, yeah.
And they're extremely vague.
Yeah.
And they refer like a gravity knife is illegal to carry here. Now, typically when you think of a gravity knife, you think of a knife where you open part of the frame and the blade drops down. Okay. But when you get into things like your button locks, I mean, you're not allowed to have any knife that you can open with a flick of the wrist.
Right.
Any kind of manipulation like that. But this is a button lock. Is that a gravity knife now?
Yeah.
That opened by gravity. It's not the intended way for it to open, but gravity just opened that knife.
Yeah, but you have to actuate the button, so it's not really a gravity lock.
But with the ones I've seen typically with a gravity knife, like the part of the frame opens up and then the blade falls down.
Yeah.
The frame again. So
yeah, that's a normal interpretation of a grab. So if you take that knife and you can flick it without actuating the button lock, that is usually the definition of a gravity knife, right? It'll open on its own without manipulation. And so you can have a button lock, but you can't be able to flip it, right? It has to have a good detent on it. Mm-hmm. In other words,
that's another convoluted thing, because if our national knife laws aren't confusing enough, our border services follows their own policy.
Yeah, that's a problem. You ought to sue them, right?
Yeah,
that's what you ought to do.
Actually, they want a court case to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can buy this knife in Canada. It's probably illegal for me to carry it in Canada, but I can buy it because there's legal to possess and legal to carry distinctions. Right. Okay. But that knife can't cross the border.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. So how do you buy it?
Well, that's the thing, because the border agency and the national knife laws aren't the same. The issue with this one is it can be opened with one hand.
Yeah, so
that makes it prohibited to carry. But it can't. It's legal to possess in Canada, but it's not legal to import into Canada, because of the wrist flick issue. Now,
Right.
I can't open that with a wrist flick.
Right. So yeah, you have to manipulate it to open. It should be legal.
But CBSA is allowed to bypass the detent.
Yeah.
So they're allowed to do this
That's
and then do that.
and you say that's been to court already?
Yeah. And that they're allowed to say that knife can be opened by one hand with a wrist flick.
Yeah.
See?
You know, Stan's pointing out really that happens in America too, but I think we're a lot more successful at overturning those things. You know, there's a cost to it, of course, to you, but a lot of gun laws have been overturned in America where, you know, that it wasn't the law; it was an agency's point of view on interpreting the law.
Yeah.
And the same thing with knives. A lot of knife laws have been overturned because of the point of view of whoever the regulating authority was, like county sheriff, you know. So that's what it boils down to. I mean, it's probably the same in Canada. You know, if your local police director, you know, doesn't like something, you know, he's going to go after it. And unless you fight it, he's going to be successful with it. And, you know, most cases, people aren't going to fight it, you know. But anyhow, what about are you sporting a slip joint?
Well, that's mostly what I carry now as a slip joints because that's the safer bet. And plus I like them better. I'm traditional. So I like older slip joints.
I usually carry a smaller one. I showed this on a video. This is a new, you're not going to be able to see that beautiful blue. Let's see if I can get it in there. Beautiful blue on this Rough Rider Reserve.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought that because it's a dog leg pattern, right?
Yeah.
And you don't see very many dog legs, and I like them. And this is a really nice knife, but it has, you know, it did have some issues. Like they did the round here, right there. You could even see it in the light. Let me get it low. So you could see how it runs down at an angle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they didn't do the round properly, you know. And you usually don't see that in a Rough Rider. And then it does have a little tiny gap too. So that was kind of surprising to me. But I've seen other content providers talk about that, where they've gotten some Rough Rider Reserves that are, you know, not the way they used to be.
The only one I have is the Kayak.
They're nice knives.
That one's, everything's tight and solid. The springs are unreal, like a guillotine.
Yeah, all of mine are. I have a number of Rough Rider Reserves, and that's why I buy them, right? But you know, the price point on that was $27. Maybe that has something to do with it. You know, a lot of the ones I get are $40 or above, and those have all been fine. But you're really getting close. I mean, I know I paid $21 for just a regular Rough Rider before off of Smoky Mountain Knife Works, but I also have paid $16 and had a perfect knife. A couple of my knives that were Rough Riders are perfect, you know, and they were only $16.
See, we got some UK royalty in here.
Yeah, Very Six is in there.
Patty's there.
Oh, hey, Patty. I didn't see you come on, brother. I'm glad you're on there. You're working on laws and not the government made ones. Yeah, he's saying that in the UK they do the same thing. They work their own laws and not the government ones. But you got to sue them, man. You got to get people together, class action lawsuit, and hold your government accountable. You know, that's bottom line. You can't. They're going to try to do what they want to do. Anyhow, what else are you doing? What are you thinking about for the next month, 2 months, if you can get healthy?
Oh, well, I'm a lot better than I was, I'll tell you that. So I think I'll be should be good this week to get back at some stuff.
Mhm. Is it really cold up there?
It was minus 18 when I got up this morning, Celsius. So
Yeah.
that would be maybe minus 2, 3, 4 Fahrenheit, I think.
Yeah. It was about 35 where I live in Georgia, northwest Georgia. So I live pretty close to the border of Tennessee. But last week it had gotten up to 68 and 70. So I was loving that. And then it's cold again. So
It's
I don't get out a lot when it's cold anymore. I used to love to hike in the cold and camp in the cold, but I'm just not up to it anymore to do it.
I don't know. With the channel, I'm not sure where it's going to go from here right now. I mean, I'm pretty much to the point now I can't get a knife out of the States anymore. And like as far as buying them from the companies, they won't ship here. And I understand that. I understand their perspective. So there won't be a lot of probably new knives showing up that often. The older knives, there's not a great deal of access to that right now, particularly in the wintertime. It's weird and I don't understand it. And if you don't understand Canada and the way it's politically and socially dispersed, I guess, basically the BC would be our California. So it would be the most progressive, most liberal province we have.
Mm-hmm.
Out on the East Coast, we're typically a little more conservative. We'd be more, the people would be more like your southern states. And I got a guy I communicate with regularly out in BC. He's on Instagram, Sasquatch Knives.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going out to pawn shops and places like that. And he'll come back and he's like, here's all the knives I found today. And this is in the more progressive area of the country.
Yeah.
And here I am in a more old school traditional area of the country. I can spend a day hitting pawn shops, flea markets, and not find a knife at any of them.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that. That seems to me it should be the opposite. He posted some videos today of his local Cabela's, and it looked like one of the ones from the States. I mean, literally an entire aisle of CRKT, an entire aisle of Buck, cabinets full of everything. And I'm like, my Bass Pro has one aisle with knives in it. Half of them are almost like no-name brands.
Yeah.
And they got one display shelf with some case on it and one display shelf with a mix of Benchmade, Spyderco, and Buck. I mean, there had to be 20 times more knives at his store than there is at mine. So.
Yeah. Actually, it's like that in most American stores, right? So I think places like Bass Pro have expanded their lineup a little. Like the last time I was in there, they had a circular counter, and then they had a bunch of displays. They had a lot more knives than they used to carry, but it's still nothing really, not a real big representation of knives. And I think more and more, online is where most people get their knives because the variety that you find in a retail outlet just isn't there anymore. There aren't huge display cases. And, in the past, there has actually been nationwide knife stores, wholesalers, right? That's all they did. And so the whole store was a knife store. And I'm not aware of any store that does that in America anymore, where you can go and just shop like for kitchen cutlery or a knife to use out on the farm or a fishing knife, So it's just, I don't know why that is, but retail, you just can't find knives anymore retail.
There's no going to like a Buc-ee's or a gas station type place here and finding a knife. There's no
Yeah.
going to a tractor supply type store here to
Yeah.
find a knife. I go to our local farm shop, our farm co-op.
Yeah.
They sell all the supplies for your farms, all the stuff for your horses, your cows, your chickens, everything.
Yeah.
Can't even buy a knife there.
That's crazy, man. You know, that may change with this new reality that's happening. America putting pressure on other countries to open up the markets,
Mhm.
and one of the most logical ways would be, you know, knives, and other things that y'all can't get.
It's if the conservatives get in, I mean, they're at least saying some common sense stuff because the liberals want to take away all the hunting rifles. The NDP wants to take away all the hunting rifles. And I just watched Polyev today, and he was saying that there are parts of this country where people depend on hunting to feed themselves.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah,
was
a lot of places actually.
he was particularly the native communities.
Yeah.
Like when you're up north where it's winter just about all the time,
Yeah.
and there's months at a time you can't have supplies shipped in,
Yeah.
you're hunting for your sustenance.
I don't think most people support that kind of thing. You know, I don't think that's going to work in Canada. I think ultimately that's going to get shot down. You know, it may take some fighting, but that's just an example of a very small elite core of people trying to enforce their views on everybody. I don't think that's going to work. I think you could get away. You can make an argument. I don't think it's a good argument, but you can make an argument for, you know, high capacity semi-automatic rifles. You know, but when you get down into the hunting, the bolt action, lever action, there's just not a lot of justification to do away with those type of things, and there's a lot of people who use them. You know. But you all don't have a Second Amendment, so there's that.
Hey, Mario. Yeah, no, it's a weird world when they can't. Canadians are known for being nice people, polite people, friendly people. That in some ways can be our own downfall because it makes us very susceptible to that slippery slope.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, when I was young, rifles in the back window of trucks, common sight.
Yeah.
And then somebody said, well, you know, that makes this person feel a little nervous and uncomfortable. And it's the nice thing to do not to make that person feel uncomfortable. So we plighted ourselves down that slippery slope.
Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is you've seen that everywhere. Once they start closing those power reins, there's not a lot you can do about it because they start rigging elections, they start rigging the system, and it's really hard to gain back your freedoms. That's why you got to be really, you know, boisterous and noisy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when it starts happening, you got to let them know you ain't going to put up with it. But I've been looking at these. You know, Joseph at JC Mountain Jar, he was wanting us to do some lanyard handles, right? The little catches you put on a lanyard to pull a knife out.
Yeah.
And so actually, I've been looking at doing some of that. I've never, you know, I put stuff like that on my knives before, but I've never made them. And so I've been looking into doing that. I'm going to be doing that in some videos coming up, making beads. You know, I decided I'm going to make some beads. He's got a good video out there. If you haven't seen it, everybody, where he makes some beads out of wood. Have you seen that, Don?
Yeah, I think that was the one he's got that big stump over the yard.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
A couple sticks off of that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And so, I've just been thinking about a lot of things. And one of the things I thought about was like these little stones. I've got all these little polished stones, right? And they're really, really cool looking. And they're around an inch and half inch by half inch, right? They're not very thick, but I can't, if you could see it in my hand there, it would make a good little lanyard pull, and I think they're really attractive.
You would have to find the right bit.
Yeah.
Drill press and the right.
Yeah, they're all about that 1.5 by 1 inch. And, I was thinking about drilling those and making lanyards, holders out of them. Mm-hmm. I don't know how that's going to work when I actually drill one, whether it'll fall apart or whether I'll be able to get through it or what, but I'm going to try that.
Yep. Just I wouldn't have the drill at a super high speed. And depending on the density of the stone, you might want a little water just to spritz on there to cool it, or some kind of an oil or something.
Yeah, I'll go slow.
Yeah. I mainly use, like, mostly I use the stag. I make a lot of them out of stag.
Yeah, you got to source stag. Like, I found a place locally I could pick up some stags. I think 2 horns for $15. I think that's about the cheapest you're going to get. And you could, the thing is, the horns are small. They're not like, up in Pennsylvania, the stag from Pennsylvania or something, or mule deer, but they're that's about the cheapest I think it could source them. But a stag would make a lot of those beads right there that you have.
Most of the ones I have are from spike horns or 4 points, something like that. They go good as a pull on a knife.
Yeah. So I'm going to be doing that with JC Mountain of Jar, and he's going to send me some he makes, and then I'm going to send him some I make, and to share to folks. And I finally, okay, I used your suggestion, Todd, and I've been trying to make a sticker. So I finally went on that mule sticker. Is that what it's called?
Sticker mule. Yeah.
Sticker mule. And in just a couple of minutes, But I had an example. Perfect Blade made me some stickers. He made like 6 of them. He didn't make the stickers. He made the designs for me because he had the graphic programs. And so thanks, Perfect Blade, for that. But so, yeah, I ordered some. I should get some stickers next week, and I'll be sending those out, But I've gone 2 years without a sticker. Man, I've got a few cats. 3 of them were actually, okay, all of them were strays that we took in. I have 4 cats. They've all were strays. And 2 of the youngest ones, one of them is retarded. And we probably don't use that word anymore, mentally challenged, right? And he really is. He just is not right in the head. And I let him out, and I think he got in a fight, and he's got some damage to his eye. And I think that, that gland you have in the corner of your eyes, that water your eyes, so that, cleans it out, that's sticking out on him, right? And my wife is all upset about it. And I'm like, look, I'm not going to spend $1,000 taking this stray cat to get his eye fixed, right? It's just not going to happen. We don't have the money anyhow. I'm retired now, and sure he works, but we can't afford to spend $1,000 on something like that. And so I'm just like, the gland will dry up and it'll fall off, and maybe his eye will be dry and he'll eventually lose it, but that's just the way it is. And she's like, I think you ought to put him down. And I said, well, I think he'd probably like to rather live with a dry eye, right? than shoot him, And she's like, yeah, I think you ought to put them down. And I'm disabled, right? So then I'm thinking, yeah. So what do you think about me? I'm kind of walking around hurt all the time, and she started laughing. She goes, "Well, your time will come, you know. When it comes, I'll handle it." I'm like, "Dang, babe." She's she was a farm girl, so you know.
Well, be careful if she asks you to start taking her to the range.
Well, I've done that before, and I'll tell you what, she is crazy at the range. You don't want to go there. She's a really good shot,
Hmm.
and she'll weigh that gun all around. I'm like, babe, there's rain rule. You can't do that. You can't just be running your gun all around. She's like, I'm not going to shoot it. I'm like, yeah, nobody knows that, and I don't know it. So she's crazy. My wife is crazy as hell. Hey, Bubba's easy. EDC is out there. Yo, Bubba. We're just talking today, man. Seeing what each other's doing.
This is proof of life. I'm still alive.
Yeah. Proof of life. Oh my gosh. What else is going on? Look, I've been fixing a bunch of knives. I don't know whether you've seen my videos. This is a Case 47 pattern I got.
Hmm.
It was really rough looking. I paid $29 for it because of that, right? Woo, right there. That chip out of there. But the blades were really messed up on it too. So the person that had it, let me see if I get a picture here. The person that had it, I think, was using it for leatherworks, and they were using a grinder to sharpen the blades
Hmm.
to make the blade sharp. And let me see here. So it had those kind of blades where it's kind of
Yep.
dipped up from the grinding,
Hmm.
and so I took and got all those grind marks off, and that's the blade now.
Hmm.
So you can see I leveled out that blade,
Yep.
and I put a factory edge back on it, really tight, small edge on it, and
Hmm.
then mirror polish the blades. And I'm down to this stupid part right there. So I have resin, right? But the thing about the resin that I have, it's Bondo, and so it's kind of dark and murky. If you've ever used Bondo, it's not clear, right? And I want to be able to match that to the color of the knife, right? So I bought some of like the table Bondo that you make tables with,
Yep.
and it's clear. And then I have dyes so I can mix the colors. And so that was my plan. This is like a dark green. I know it looks brown, but it's actually a greenish color. And so I was going to match color perfectly, and then resin that patch. You wouldn't even know it was missing.
Hmm.
And the other day I started looking for that. I can't find it anywhere, man. I've gone crazy. I've looked in ridiculous places for it. I looked in my oven for it, right? So I just, every place I look, but I know I had it. I actually had them in my hand. I was reading how to use them, but I cannot find that resin anywhere. So I went ahead yesterday and ordered some more.
That's that's my secret to find
Yeah,
if I can't find.
I know it.
If I have something, I know I have it. I can't find it. Eventually, I'll get fed up and I'll go buy a new one. And then when
That's
I come home, I say to myself, I'm going to put this somewhere where I can't lose it.
yeah.
Typically, when I put it there, that's where I find the one I already had.
I know I'm gonna find it as soon as that stuff comes in. Here's another one of the little blades. You can see where it's just all the scratches on it,
Mhm.
and I cleaned that off, mirror polished it, and then on the coping blade, you can see how it's wider at the bottom
Yep.
on that coping blade, and so that's straight now. But
Well, I will never, for the life of me, wrap my mind around the grinder for sharpening knives. For an
I get
axe,
it.
something like that. But, I come from, there's never been a lot of money in my family. There's been no rich people in my family. I mean, I was talking to my mother this morning about her going with her mother and her grandmother, bringing in hay bales, hunting for food, slaughtering the chickens, all that stuff. And so I come from people, when you buy something, you look after it and make it last you as long as you can before you have to spend money to buy another one. And I don't understand how people put their knives on big grinders and just kills the life of a blade so fast.
Yeah, this knife had all kinds of. It's not that old, so I think it's from the 90s. Let me see. It's actually an 1980 case, and it's actually not that bad for being put on a grinder. Right, there's a lot of blade left up there, and but still, there's a lot of people do that just grind the crap out of the blade. My neighbor is a former Marine, which we get along great, right? Because I am too. But he does that, right? And I'm like, man, don't grind your blades. Send them over to me. I'll sharpen, right? And it just, for some people, it's quick and easy, and they're just going to buy another knife when they wear it out, But I think it's the lot mentality back in the old days, buying a knife in the 1920s was probably 25% of your income.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a really big expenditure.
Yeah.
And people were making $5 a week. So, you took care of things, you repaired things, and that's why you see different blades sometimes. A lot of times you think those are Frankenstein blades, but they had knife repairmen, back in the 1920s. And just like when you and I grew up, we had TV repairmen.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
So if your TV broke, you didn't throw it out and go down to Costco and buy another one, right? You fixed the TV.
Yeah.
And there were TV repairmen. Trying to find a TV repairman today, man. They're out there, but really, really hard to find one.
And it wasn't like you just ran to the local store and bought what you needed in a lot of places either.
Yeah.
I was looking for like back then up here was the Sears catalog. If you needed a new knife or a new tool or a new rifle or something like that, you went to somebody who had the catalog. You found what you wanted in the catalog. You put the order in, and it might be several weeks to a couple months before you ever got it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of like ordering a custom knife, like ordering a knife a buck could take 6 weeks. And then the mail, so the mail, we complain about the mail a lot, but the mail, back in the day, it could take you 2-3 months to get mail.
Yeah.
You didn't have the road system, and now you didn't have airplanes, and so we complain if it doesn't get to us in 5 days, but it's a lot faster than it used to be.
Well, I'm trying to remember the name of the company, but I was cleaning up my great grandfather's Winchester 3030 model 94.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think if I remember right, I dated that 1942 to 45 or 46. And because there was one period in there, and I don't know if it related to the war, but there was 3 or 4 years where they didn't record the serial numbers. Like, you can go to a catalog of the serial numbers for each year for that rifle. It was in this one period they didn't record the serial numbers, and that gun has one of those serial numbers. But it was, as I'm cleaning it up, I got talking to Dad, and he's telling me the story about when he ordered it from, and it was a catalog in the States.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it started with J. It was an outdoor hunting catalog. Well, I actually went and found the catalog. And from about 10 years after that, with the gun listed in it. But I mean, I don't know how long it would have taken him to get that gun back in the 40s, ordering it from the States.
Forever.
Yeah.
It really would have took a long time. I think from maybe at least 3 months, to get it. But they didn't have on demand, uh, on time shipping. You know what I mean? So a lot of times you order from a catalog, but the catalog had to order from the manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a lot of cases where they actually had to manufacture what you were ordering, then it had to ship to the place, be processed, and then ship back out to you.
Yeah.
So
and probably the catalog you ordered from is going to sit there and wait until they get a handful of orders from a particular area before they send anything out.
Unlike this, so that is a Spartan blade
Mm-hmm.
right there. It's about a 4-inch blade, so it's an EDC knife.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that design. It's green micarta. And the really interesting thing about this is that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like just a regular Kydex sheath, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look right up here where my finger is, there's a release right there. See that?
Yeah.
And so it's like a second level retention, like a firearm holster.
Okay. Yeah.
And so you reach down and release it to come out. And of course it gives you an advantage. Like if you get in a conflict and somebody tries to grab your knife, they're not going to be able to get it because you have to release it to pull it out, right? It doesn't just snap out like a lot of knives in Kydex sheaths. And of course, you have that advantage of if you're just rock climbing or going over rough terrain hunting, it's not going to pop out. And traditionally, you have those bands that go around and snap to hold your knife
Mm-hmm.
in place, but they always get cut or broken or wear out. So I thought it was just a amazing idea from Spartan Blades. So Spartan Blades designed that, and K-Bar is producing it.
Mm-hmm.
And pretty inexpensive price. Not the cheapest, but 135 is not bad for a little hunting knife. And I can't wait to get that. I should get that tomorrow, probably, maybe today. So,
did you ever see the little trick I came up with for a guy? I used it on the BPS and on that Benchmade for keeping the knife in the sheath.
Rolling the thing over onto it. It's like a catch.
No. Give me 1 second. I have them right here. So there's the BPS Adventurer.
Yeah.
And there's the sheath that comes with it. It's got the ferro rod. Now, it's just one of those drop-in sheaths. So if you were to fall or be upside down or
right
for your orientation, if it's not in there snug, it can fall out. Well, I always put a lanyard on my fixed blades just for safety, just so when you're grabbing it, if there's not a lot of a choil or anything on it or a guard, just so your hand can't slip up the blade.
Yeah, it's good for chopping.
So what I do with these is I've got a little shock cord that holds my ferro rod in. I just take my lanyard, run my shock cord through it, drop that back over there like that.
Yeah, that works great, doesn't it?
That knife cannot come out now.
Yeah.
Then I just have to that, and out it comes.
That's a good idea.
So.
It's easy to take loose, too.
Mm-hmm.
I got a couple Kershaws I ordered, too. I don't know, you may have seen them. The Iredell. Does that sound familiar to you?
Iredell. No.
It's a Stockman type knife. It looks different. It looks, it's very curvy. Has a very different Stockman look. Mm-hmm. And then I saw they had a trapper, and I don't know. I don't. Maybe you all could tell me, how long they've been making a trapper, but I don't think Kershaw's been making a trapper too long. Maybe it came out last year or something. And so I ordered one of those Kershaw trappers because I have the two other knife, and they're fantastic. That Brandywine is just a fantastic little stockman, and so I can't wait to get those and review those, put them up there.
Is it Kershaw that makes the Federalist?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
I'd
one.
like to get the Federalist too, but
those are quite pricey up here.
It's, I don't know. I just sometimes I finally get around to something, because somebody sent me a Purina knife, and I've been looking at those for 10 years. I've wanted to get one, but every time I go, I'm getting something else. That's crazy.
Backwards. That's Kershaw Federalist, CPM 154, SW, micarta handles.
Yeah.
Suggested retail price $299.99, on sale for $220.
Yeah, I think you're about 100% markup. That's too much. What they're doing there is the government is just taking money from everybody. It's another way to tax you.
Yeah.
Right? That's what they're doing. There's no other reason to have that kind of markup. Not as close as we are, and not with the trade. I mean, we have really good trade with Canada.
Yeah.
And you all have a real good trade with us. So it's not a matter of the process,
Mm-hmm.
I used to bring stuff up to Canada all the time when I was a trucker.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been into Canada. That's how I ended up buying a copper lock. Is I carried these big, heavy duty modern folders on my truck, and I needed them. I needed a heavy duty knife, and so I had to look for a knife that won't get me arrested in Canada, but that I could use.
Mm-hmm.
And even though the copper lock's a little more fragile than I would normally carry, it was tough, right? And it had a good lock on it, and it was a real pretty green. It was non-threatening, you
get into bizarre stuff again.
Yeah.
You can,
and it took two hands to open, so
you can walk down the street with a samurai sword on your back and it's legal.
Yeah.
If you have a traditional folding pocket knife, just your basic folding pocket knife in your pocket, if the blade is longer than 2.6 inches, it's considered a concealed weapon and you can do 10 years for having it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I can have a samurai sword on my back, but it's illegal for me to have that in my pocket.
I went in, I talked to the border guards there.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm not trying to be an outlaw or anything, but I needed tools, to work on the truck all the time. The mud flaps on my truck were half an inch of thick, heavy duty rubber, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your normal, like using an 18 Stockman on it would break the blade.
Oh yeah,
they're really tough. Those things would break off. I would have to repunch a hole in them and then, tie them up, fix my mud flap, keep it from falling off. But all kinds of other things too on a truck that you use a heavy blade for, strapping.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to the border guards and they said, as long as you're not pulling that out and threatening people, you're going to be okay, and especially if you're working, if you're on the job or working on your truck, you're not going to have any problems. If you're going out shopping and you're pulling this knife out all the time, you may have a problem. Somebody may stop you and question you.
That leads into another issue. Hey, Jim, but it's illegal in Canada to carry anything for the purpose of self-defense. So,
Except for the purpose?
no, for the purpose.
Oh, yeah, that's ridiculous.
You are legally not allowed to carry anything. If
Yeah.
I have a lucky stone in my pocket
Yeah.
and a police officer stops me for some reason and say, you have everything in your pockets. Oh, I got my lucky rock. You know, why do you have your lucky rock? Well, it's my good luck rock. Makes me feel good.
Right.
And the police officer says to me, well, it's probably a good thing you have this rock because this is a bad neighborhood. And I suppose I could use it if I got into trouble.
Now you're in trouble.
Now you're in trouble because now you admitted to carrying a rock in your pocket for self-defense.
Yeah, that goes back to just don't talk to the cops, right? they're just not there to help you.
Mm-hmm. But the trucking thing made me think at work, I used to process all of the delivery people. I processed everybody in, but the delivery people as well. So there was a lot of stuff I had to take just temporarily at hold.
Yeah.
The trucks coming in because there's a variety of tools there that could be put to dangerous purpose in the wrong hands.
Yeah.
We're asking one guy one day, I said, do you have any knives or anything like that in the truck? He said, yeah, I got one. I said, can you just bring it into me? I got to hang on to it while you're inside. No problem. He walks in with this monstrous tactical buoy. I said, why the heck do you have that? He said, well, this is a cash only business. So whenever I do a delivery, I take cash. I've got tens of thousands of dollars in this truck at any given time. And he said, the government won't let me carry a handgun.
Yeah.
So that's why I get this.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's, when I grew up in Miami, South Florida. And when I grew up, you could buy a firearm, but you couldn't carry it, right? And so there were you could carry a firearm in your car, unloaded with the ammunition somewhere else. And over time, there were different regulations you had to comply with, having a weapon in your car or your house, but you couldn't carry it, but special people could, right? So if you were a banker or a jeweler, if you had money, if you were an upstanding citizen, a doctor, something like that, you could get a concealed carry permit.
Yeah.
And I got a real big problem with that, because you're exempting people by class that way. And in the way it's worked out in America is your concealed carriers among the safest citizens in America. Mm-hmm. So they take a lot of responsibility for the weapon they carry. They don't want to lose that privilege. So they're among the most law-abiding citizens in the country, concealed carriers. They just don't get into trouble. They're always considering that, before they do something. They're like, well, I'm carrying. I don't want to do anything that jeopardize my concealed carry. And so it's just like it also drives crime rate way down, right? So in areas that have adopted concealed carry laws, the crime rate has fallen drastically. And and I know that criminals are just out for an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I've actually asked them before, like home invasion, not a real big crime in America. And I've asked them, why don't you guys do any more home invasions? It's pretty easy. And he said, well, that's simple. You never know who's armed, right? Yep. In a house.
There's a video out there, and I forget who put it out. It's on YouTube somewhere, where these guys went around from household to household pretending that they were anti-gun advocates.
Yeah.
And they were asking people, do you have firearms in your home? No, we don't believe in firearms. We don't believe in that at all. There should be no firearms. Yeah. And they said, great. Do you mind if we put a sign on your lawn saying proud gun-free home? Oh, we can't do that. They didn't, they didn't like the guns, but they recognized that if they put a sign on their lawn saying we don't have guns, they were going to be targeted.
Right. So. And that's a real thing. I mean, that's what criminals have told me.
Yeah.
And that's why, concealed carry works, because most people are victimized outside their home. And when you create a situation where the criminals just don't know, they're going to go the easy route. They're going to choose things that aren't as confrontational.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
Well, you look back to the old Crocodile Dundee movie.
Yeah.
When Buddy pulls out the little switchblade, and then Crocodile Dundee pulls out the buoy.
Yeah.
The guy with the switchblade turned and ran. So.
Yeah. Well, they will, so they're looking. I mean, criminals are looking for the easy. They're predators, and predators look for sick, maimed, easy targets, right? A lion is ferocious and can kill you, but a lion is looking for a vulnerable target because he doesn't want to get hurt. And criminals exhibit the exact same behavior. They're looking for the easy target. Mm-hmm. And that's why if you don't present yourself as an easy target, you're a lot less likely to be victimized, just looking. So when you get out and you look around and you see somebody just hanging out looking suspicious, and you look at them, that right there tells them that you're alert and not an easy target, and they're going to choose somebody that's on their cell phone walking along laughing and giggling, So
they'll choose the man bun over the brush cut.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. It's not complicated, and I think a lot of times politicians are just wrong on the way they view things. And
I've always had an issue with the fact that my prime minister tells me I'm not allowed to carry anything for self-defense while he's surrounded by 30 armed guards.
Yeah, that's the problem. Elite, right? Laws for you, not for me. And that's a problem with police. And that's a problem I've always had with that kind of mentality. Mm-hmm. It is, they're not living by, they're hypocrites. They're not living by what they preach.
Yeah.
And they don't, they wouldn't, they don't want to do without it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I got a real big problem with that. You got anything else going on? I don't know how long we've been on here.
Just a touch over an hour, I think. But,
all right. Well,
yeah, not a whole lot right now. Just getting myself healthy again, and then I'll be figuring out where I go with the videos from here, what I can focus on until I get we get some border issues and whatnot straightened out.
Okay, I'll get that knife in the mail to you. I'll try to get it out next week. To you, maybe 2 weeks. I don't know, but I'll get that out to you. Maybe some other ones that you can review, and then let's go ahead and wrap it up. I like to keep it at about an hour. Enjoyed talking to you, seeing what was up with you, and you should be prime minister, and I should be president, and all the problems would be solved.
Well, at least ours would be.
Yeah, our problems would be. We make that right. Okay, brother. Take care.
Everybody take care. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Honey, you're not